Let's talk about how to fix a Google Ads account suspension for suspicious payment activity. And for context, my name is John. I am the CEO of StubGroup. We are a Google Premier Partner and the #1 resource in the world for fixing Google suspensions and policy issues. So the suspicious payment suspension type a couple of years ago was incredibly common. Businesses were constantly getting flagged for this type of suspension. I'll say it's a little bit less common nowadays, but still very much happens. And if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that it happened to you or that you're being super proactive in trying to make sure it doesn't happen to you. So let me walk you through some of the most common reasons that we see for suspicious payment suspensions. First of all, I'm just going to get out of the way, actual fraud. If you are actually trying to commit fraud with Google, this video is not for you. You should not be doing that. But if you are doing that, if you stole a credit card or something like that, and you're using that in your ad account, then it's obvious why Google is suspending you, and that's not something that can or should be fixed. I'm going to assume that you are legitimate and that you are a real business with a real payment method trying to do things the right way, and that is who this video is for. So, assuming you're not doing actual fraud, maybe one of the next most common reasons I see for suspensions would be using a virtual card in your ad account. Now, this, I would say, is not as big of a problem as it used to be. I think Google has gotten better at understanding that lots of legitimate businesses use virtual cards to pay for things, like a ramp card, for example. And so it's a little bit less common for them to suspend you. But if you are suspended and you are using some kind of virtual payment method in your ad account, that might be part of the problem. And so definitely recommend using a physical card, or I should say that the number associated with a physical card that exists, or directly linking your bank account, for example, to pay for your ad spend. Next up, another common issue would be if your credit card that you're using to pay for your ad account has had issues with other Google products. When I say products, I don't just mean Google Ads. You can pay Google for a lot of things using the same credit card. So let's say that you had, I don't know, a Google Drive account, paid account for Google Cloud or YouTube or any other Google product, and you had an issue with that. You didn't pay your bill, you did chargeback, something like that. Well, if Google sees that issue with your credit card, then they're probably going to assume that there's an issue on the ad account side of things as well. So you can go to your payments profile with Google and look for everything that you're paying Google for and look for other issues that might be impacting your ad account. Another issue would be having an unpaid balance in, for example, another ad account. So some businesses may have multiple ad accounts. Some businesses don't realize they have multiple ad accounts. Maybe you created one 5 years ago and you lost touch with it. You lost access to it. You don't even know it exists, but there's an unpaid balance there because maybe your credit card in there, maybe you switched credit cards, you didn't pay off your last payment that you needed to pay to Google. Now there's an unpaid balance and Google is connecting that ad account with your current ad account and saying, hey, dude, you owe me money. You need to pay off this unpaid balance before we're going to let you keep paying for this new ad account. And so to fix that, obviously, you need to figure out if that's what's going on, if there is another ad account out there that has an unpaid balance, and get that taken care of. Another very common thing that triggers the suspicious payment suspension is having the same payment method across multiple ad accounts. Now, this is not technically a violation of Google's policies. You are allowed to have multiple ad accounts. You are allowed to pay for those ad accounts with the same payment method. But this is something that we often see trigger Google's automated systems to think that something fishy or weird is going on. And so generally speaking, if you're paying by credit card, we don't recommend using the same credit card to pay for multiple ad accounts. There are methods you can take. For example, you can get a line of credit with Google and use that across multiple ad accounts, or potentially link a bank account instead of a credit card. But generally, we don't recommend using the same credit card across multiple ad accounts. Another issue could be if you have charged back any of Google's charges to you for any reason. We've seen situations where a client saw charges come through from Google and said, oh, I don't recognize those, there must be fraud or something, submitted a chargeback, and guess what? Google says, hey, you are taking my money back. I am not cool with that. We're going to suspend your complete ad account because we're not confident now that you're actually going to keep paying us, or that we're going to get to keep the money that you are paying us. So that's a big issue. And if you do a chargeback, well, don't do a chargeback. There are other methods that you can take to try and fix issues, but don't do a chargeback because that's going to really, really create problems for you. So instead, if you have already done a chargeback, you're going to have to work through that with Google, or come to someone like StubGroup who can help you work through that process and try to get back on Google's good side, so to speak. Another very common issue is having unclear billing details or unclear ownership of the card. Often what we'll see happen is that maybe a business owner is using a personal card to pay for ad spend, but the business is registered, or the ad account is registered as a business. And so the billing addresses don't match up, name on the credit card doesn't match up, things like that. And Google's confused to say, okay, who's paying for the ad spend, or do you really have permission to use this credit card? Things like that. So we look, proactively when we're working with clients for issues like that and try and fix all that, making everything as consistent and transparent with Google as possible. And also it's really important to provide documentation to Google about the ownership of payment methods, about who is paying for the ad spend as part of the appeal process. And then another thing that can happen is what Google calls promotional code abuse. So Google will often give promotional codes to advertisers, especially new advertisers, spend X amount of money with Google, get X amount of ad credit. And sometimes people try to take advantage of that, open multiple ad accounts so they can keep reusing those codes. That is against Google's policies. And if they catch you, they will generally suspend you because you're trying to extract free money from them, and that is against their policies. So that's a problem. But sometimes it's not even someone trying to game the system in that way. It's simply not even realizing that they had an ad account before and now they've created this new ad account, put the promotional code in, that flags Google, that's an issue. Or not realizing that they'd already used a promotional code in an ad account, trying to use it again. And so we've seen that cause suspensions as well. So those are some of the most common reasons that we see, and some ideas that are hopefully helpful in terms of how to fix those issues. If you want expert help to fix this for you and get your ad account running again, please reach out through StubGroup.com. That's what we're here to do to help. We fix this issue constantly for all types of advertisers. Or if you want some free guides to help you out in a DIY fashion, you can go to our website, click the link in the description below. We've got lots of free content to help you get back online with Google.